Here he is, our Tuesday regular from the Province and Post Media, Mr. Patrick Johnston. How you doing?
Not bought out, still working.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
It's true. Buyouts on media and NHL fronts last
are
week.
all the rage. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sort of get this started on a somber note.
Only up from here, Matthew.
What did you make of the buyout? Do you agree with the decision?
Well, I was in the sort of could but didn't think it would happen camp. I get it, and they needed to do something. I thought they were going to try to go for a trade, but this certainly throws that. I mean, I'm sure a trade could still happen, but in terms of ripping the Band-Aid off and just going, all right, we're going to go for it. This is definitely that, and it gives them certainly space to work with going into a season where they believe they will be a playoff team, and you have to think even more than that. They want to think that they're even more than that, and certainly in a position where they need to create something that is going to convince their star center that this is a team to stay with. Winning is number one, even if that means they're going to have to manage another 8 years of dead cap, running essentially. I mean, what was it from? Depending on how you want to count Louis Eriksson, but kind of go Louis Eriksson beginning in 2016 through to 2031.
It's a good 15-year career here.
Yeah, there's your trade tree on that, or I think it was you can count. The Canucks will have dead cap money based on the compliance or the cap recapture, blah 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 for 13. I mean, it's astounding where this team 10 years ago was sort of 15 years ago was one of the leading cap management teams. The good old Lawrence Gilman leading the way.
Finding loopholes.
Loopholes.
That the year later would say, no, you can't do that.
Or everyone. I mean, the LTIR move that everyone complains about or not everyone, but people complain about, that the Canucks invented that.
Oh, yeah. Sammy Salo's injured.
Sammy Salo
Edler's okay now. Edler's
magically healthy the day that
We
Alex
don't-
Edler left the lineup.
We don't have to trade Kevin Bieksa now, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. It's astounding to think how times have changed, and now they are the experts at managing dead cap money or something.
Well, and Patrick, I'll do you one better. I suspect the trade tree, if you will, and of course, it was a free agent trade which turned into a trade tree. But if they trade Connor Garland in 3 years for, say, like a mid-round draft pick. The kid takes 4 or 5 years to make the NHL. This trade tree could last beyond even 2031.
It'll be Neely-esque. The Neely trade is still alive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
All right, so you tell me, answer the Bodog poll question today. Where should they spend their newfound cap space? On a top 4 defenseman or a third-line center?
Well, I mean, third-line center has been a topic for so long. Maybe, bring back Brandon Sutter? No. I think it's that. They had the horses last year. I don't even know anymore. No, I keep saying center. You know what? I've just thought about it for another minute. Defense. And as has been pointed out, OEL was the second leading scoring defenseman last year. He actually did bring some offense to the table, even in his hobbled state last year. He brought some offense to the table, but it was pretty meager. And the fact that obviously Luke Schenn was the third leading scorer last year on defense.
Well, Philip Roenick will be him.
In theory,
yeah.
But they need something else. They need at least another guy. So I'm going to go defense.
Do you think that they all of a sudden are just a normal team in the NHL, at least for this year? Like a team able to make some moves and strive for the playoffs? Does it feel like they've got a little bit of a new lease on life this season?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that on Friday when I was sorting out the OEL news through my head. I mean, here they were, the only team essentially that was over the cap already for next season, and now, I mean, they're still I think 7th highest cap hit at the moment.
They're not rich with space, but yeah.
But they're just kind of another team now.
Yeah.
They have now it's again their own scenario. Like this management team it's now their scenario. How they manage this space is how they will be judged. They made the hard choice. They did something that I don't imagine they really wanted to do, but obviously felt they had no alternative. Do
you think he plays in the league this year? Oh yeah.
I've been wondering about that. I mean, he does.
I think he does.
Yeah,
I think he does because simply for the fact that he can in theory write his own ticket. He can take whatever he wants, right? Because he's still getting paid.
Yeah.
Right. So okay, sure. He maybe wants to make himself whole so that he makes up that.
I'm guessing he gets 2.5 from somebody.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
And then he gets 2.5 from somebody, and he goes and plays in Boston. I don't know. Like Boston.
I didn't think Eric Branson had a chance at playing in the NHL again after the Canucks.
Exactly.
And then here we go. He gets another full contract, for God's sake. So,
exactly.
We'll see. I don't know that I've got the same faith that OEL can rejuvenate his career, although I had zero faith that Goodbranson could too. So, again, you just never know.
Do you really think Goodbranson's rejuvenated his career?
Well, he got the extra contract.
But I'm just saying playing wise. But I'm saying playing. I mean, I think there is. Someone once told me that one of the things to understand about Eric Goodbranson is that players talk about going into the corner or front of the net with him in ways they don't talk about most other defensemen. I know that sounds weird, and the rest of Goodbranson's game is obviously a disaster. But certainly reputationally, players still think, here's one of the few guys that
will have his elbow up, sort of thing. And, yeah.
But OEL. Okay, here's the thing we know about OEL. He can still kind of move. Contribute offensively. That is the truth of the Canucks. They have to replace his offense, as weird as that sounds. He can still do that. Here's clearly a player who believes he can come back stronger than he was last year. He knows how bad he was this year. And he says, here's why. It was my foot. My foot's fine now. But he's also coming off an ankle injury. And he's, in his 31? I can't even remember now. 32?
So here's the big question. With this newfound cap space, can they fashion a playoff team? It's reasonably weak free agent crop. There are some very interesting names on the trade market.
Yeah.
Do you think, and of course, they're in a nightmare division with the defending Stanley Cup champions, the two best players in the world in Alberta.
A resurgent Flames team, you'd have to think.
A Kings team that has maybe the flushest prospect pipeline in the business, and Seattle made the Final 8 last year.
You guys just took all my points away from me.
But other than that, do they have a chance?
The division, to me, the division's the story. No matter what they do here, it is the classical. Yeah, you can expect your players to improve. I mean, I think Elias Pettersson is exactly at his peak. This is what he is. Quinn Hughes is just about there. Thatcher Demko, they believe, will be the Thatcher Demko he has mostly been, and not the Thatcher Demko he was at the beginning of last season. Like, those are good things. Those help you get to where you need to be. But this division remains really tougher than I think people were expecting, or maybe gave it credit to be going into last season. But no, that's exactly it. You have the Stanley Cup champions. You have the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers aren't perfect, but the Oilers had 109 points.
No, it's a good team. It's a good team.
Don't sleep on them, right?
Yeah.
They are going to be in the same battle, trying to improve their team, trying to find better options on defense, trying to find forwards who do things when their best forwards are not on the ice. LA is just that team, ascendant team. Sure, they could hit a bump and all of a sudden slip away and not be.
Well, one of these teams will, right? One of these, we're expecting good things from all these teams. One of them is not going to be able to do something. Yeah,
exactly. Is Calgary going to be a 93-point team again, or is they going to be better than that? Right? There's a lot of things, but there's certainly 5 teams of which you would expect 4 will definitely be in the playoff hunt, and the Canucks have to beat out 2 of those 5 teams essentially. So. They were 83-point team. That's the thing you cannot ignore. Mm-hmm. That even no matter what you want to spend, they were 17 points off the 4th spot in this division, right? That's 8-9 wins, And even if you say their first half, you sort of say, okay, there were a handful of wins. 5 wins still doesn't get them in the playoffs. Like that's the reality. They can't just be 5 wins better. They have to be almost 10 wins.
And that's with a good final quarter as well. So,
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
A very good final quarter.
That's my
they
point,
were
right?
one of the better teams in the league in February, March, and April.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And are they a team that's good enough to be one of the league's better teams the whole season? I don't think so, right? And that means you're going to have a slow patch. Like, you're not going to have as bad a start as they did at the beginning of the season necessarily, and you're not going to have as bad a start as the year before. But even if you get yourself up to kind of average, so you get 5 more wins, right? That's my point, is that you just getting to 93 points. I mean, 95 is usually the limit here, right? And Winnipeg got in with 95 points. So if you can say, okay, that's still 12 more, that's 6 more wins, right? Are you pulling 6 wins out of that first half this year right now? Like,
I keep thinking Ilya Mikheyev gets dropped in like a kind of like a brand new free agent. He almost played 50 games. He played past the midway point of the season, but he's going to be a better player, we think. He's going to be a faster player, we think. I think Mikheyev helps this team kind of in the same way that Roenick does. That we didn't really factor those 2 players in for much of the final third of the season, and they're going to be there.
Yeah, sure. But in the end, it comes back to there's a lot of interesting bits and pieces, and it's going to be interesting. It's not not going to be a boring team. I've talked about him before. I'm actually very interested. I think Max Hassan is going to be an interesting factor as a depth center. Like, I think he's got more offensive talent than Niels Oman already. I mean, Oman had a better second half, but still, there's no sort of offensive quality there. And those are the kind of incremental gains you need to make. Maybe Sesson isn't the guy. I don't know, but that's one of those ones that I'm looking at. Can they find something like that? What are they going to do with the Bear situation? I mean, we talked a bit about this last week, but you're going to have to find. I mean, I think now you're looking for a guy that is at least as good as Ethan Bear. You're not just sort of looking for a 7-8 guy that can pitch hit for 2 months. Do
they get Bear at 1.5 now? Can they lowball him to that degree?
I don't know. Like
that seems kind of mean, but it's also business.
The fact he wants to be here certainly plays the Canucks' way. That essentially this is a team he chose.
Yeah.
Has been very vocal about his desire to be here. We'll see. I still think they like him too much that they will qualify him. It seems crazy to think that they wouldn't. They try to do. I mean, it's happened before. Don't get me wrong. But I think he's that's the Pouliot route. I think he's better than Derek Pouliot was at the same time. So
yeah. Hey, as for Sasson, the way they're structured right now, I would look at it and say, hey, there's opportunity for guys like Sasson, Ratu, Höglander, maybe even McDonough. But I would suspect that they're probably going to use this cap space to get a third-line center, which knocks Amon down to 4th.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe even get another NHL forward in there to go along with your defenseman. We shall see. I thought Jeff made a good point yesterday where he said, do they already have something lined up? Elliot Friedman saying he doesn't believe they have anything lined up, but he believes they think there are things that they're now going to be able to do that maybe have been on the periphery of their thinking because of no cap space.
Yeah.
But they have a pretty good playbook on where they're going to spend that money. What do you foresee here over the next week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the sort of tightrope they were trying to walk at the deadline, right? Like the talks with Pittsburgh, trying to pull some picks in from there. I mean, I think the Pittsburgh story, of course, was the fact that ownership pulled back on Ron Hextall. But you can see the sort of framework, the idea of Lafrenière, which I think I had sort of at least winked at some point. But yeah, I think that's something that they certainly are interested in. That's the kind of player, as I know I said before, that's the kind of player that they have long been interested in. But I think if you're bringing in a Lafrenière, I suspect that means you're moving on. I mean, are you bringing him to be your third center? Is he the third center, or are you moving on from JT
He's not a center. I mean,
what is he? That's what I mean. Like, but what I'm saying is that like, if you're bringing a guy in like that, what do you do? What else are you doing? I think they were trying to make a big swing, and they were hoping to take some big swings at the deadline. But of course, they had to manage their way through this cap situation. Well, now they have a little more leeway, and I don't think there's any reason to think that they won't still be trying to take some big cuts here. Just based on what I heard they were trying to do at the deadline. Like I said, they were trying to make something big happen with Pittsburgh, and they were trying to turn around and turn it into something else, which I think was probably Lafrenière.
Lastly, and you guys did a nice job of reporting on this and chronicling this in the province. BC Place turns 40.
Yeah.
Were you at the game Saturday?
I wasn't.
You were the one who was missing. Okay.
Yes, I was the one. Yeah. Can we just?
Man, it was quite a scene.
J-Pat on Brink. Well, I don't know if we brought it up on Wayne Friday. It might have been before, but J-Pat, noted non-fan of music, was all over the LL Cool J. That's how relevant.
Exactly.
That's how relevant the Lions made themselves.
Did you see his tweet? Mama said, "Shut you out."
No, I know, and I don't know
Pretty
if people
sharp.
quite. I was just like, holy smoke. Anyway,
That's good.
22-0.
Yeah. First of all, Lions, well done. They've taken they're seizing the moment. They're getting some buzz to themselves. They see a gap that they can exploit. Good for them. But yeah, BC Place, 40 years. It's I had a lot of fun. I wrote a little story about that. Talked to Mike Harcourt, who of course was the mayor as the building was being built, and was on city council as sort of Expo was being bid on, and so that was kind of a fun journey through city politics of the era, and then just talking about this baseball. I mean, it's just a window in a completely different era of MLB. Meeting with Bowie Kuhn, who's like, well, I've got to deal with this drug problem. But of course, the drug problem is, steroids were kind of there, but really he's talking about cocaine. And I've got to get this, under wraps. But it's just a completely different era of sports. Let's go to Vancouver. And Jimmy Pattison was going, and Molson were like, let's get a team. And that was a big part. That is a big part of the BC Place story. Obviously, baseball kind of withered away, and Mariners maybe had some interest here for a little while, but in the end it's been a football stadium. I mean, that was the funny thing, and Chappie kind of gave me and you a bit of a hard time. He's like, how do we end up doing all this baseball stuff? It's a football stadium. but it's a fascinating bit to the story, and it's obviously it's not a perfect facility. There's lots of things. You can talk about the costs of the renovation and all the decisions made around that, but things. I suppose the way it put it, which is not exactly a big sell, but things could be worse. There are massively worse stadiums. I mean, it's not Olympic Stadium. Let's say that, for instance. And it's certainly better than it's. You can talk about Rogers Centre in Toronto and, what it feels like. And it is obviously a concrete monster, and how steamy it feels in the summer. And the fact it's just a baseball stadium. But, BC Place has served the city well for what it is. And I think it's going to be there for quite a long time.
I wish they hadn't just renovated it, because that means that they're going to hold on to it for that much longer, though.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's what I was going to say. I don't think it's going anywhere.
No.
Certainly,
it's not. It's the best stadium in Canada. Let's
best big event stadium. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
No, it's the best stadium in Canada. Period. Full stop. It's got the most amenities. It's centrally located. It's got the most seats. It's got the best history.
Better than Regina and Winnipeg. Yeah. Not the city, the stadium. Regina?
Are we talking about arenas? Are we wiping out hockey arenas?
You want to put Mosaic Stadium on a level with BC Place right now?
I don't know. I've never been. Have you been?
No, I've been to the Winnipeg one, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard middling reports on that one.
Not BC Place.
Because why?
Well, first of all, it's way out at the University of Manitoba.
That's not what we're weighing. We're weighing the building.
Not particularly
we're weighing the building.
accessible.
We're weighing the building.
Oh, Blake, there were a lot of troubles with the construction of that building.
The Winnipeg one, yes, I heard that.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of concrete monstrosities.
And Blake, there is no world where the best stadium in the country would be located in Winnipeg or Regina, okay? We're sitting here talking about the World Expo, the fair. There are only two cities.
You're not talking stadiums.
There are only two cities in this country that the world wants to come to, Vancouver and Montreal. They're the two cities that have had the World's Fair.
Yeah.
They're the two cities that have had the Olympics accordingly.
Okay, now we're on to cities. Did you?
Nobody wants to go to Toronto either.
Why are they
really ugly city at ground level?
Why are they
can't get downtown from the airport? On and on and on.
Well, actually, you can. There's a better train now to Pearson. But nevertheless,
okay. Why are they upkeeping the PNE? Did you see the PNE's getting new lights? Like the Coliseum has got like new LED lights just installed around it so that they can control. Like, why are they fixing up the Coliseum right now?
Sir, do you not understand the real business at the Coliseum? It's movies.
What?
They make tons of money off movies at the Coliseum.
Oh, just for as a venue. Yes.
Yes. It's an incredible facility. Like they've done a really good job of revitalizing that place. And as bizarre as that sounds, and obviously doesn't have a sports tenant. But
they sold the scoreboard, so they have no intention of it being a sports tenant. But they can't even shoot like a basketball movie or a hockey movie in there anymore because there's no scoreboard.
Yeah, CGI, buddy.
CGI.
Yeah, no, no, seriously, they literally will do like stuff on the concourse. Like they just open the door. Like it's apparently it's sort of ease of use as a movie facility and TV facility is, and so the city makes, and you only need you only need to employ the security guards. So, yeah.
Here's the big question, Johnson. Since you brought it up, the early '80s and the cocaine scandal in baseball, and I suppose we could have asked our friend Tim Raines about this because he has been very open about his use of.
Good segue.
All the base stealers used to slide head first.
The Tim Raines thing, sliding head first, who would break
so
the vial
as
of coke
not
in his
to
back
break
pocket.
the vial in the back pocket. Why didn't they just leave it in their locker?
Yeah,
that's the part I've never understood.
I guess people would rifle through the lockers and
searching.
I guess they weren't as secure back in the day, and of course, then it wouldn't be accessible in the dug.
A little pick me out. A little pick me up for the 7th. Yeah.
Take me out to the ball game.
What a finish.
We'll see you at BC Place and at the Nat, Peach. Thanks for this.
Take care, guys.
The base lines.
Happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day, Yellow Dog Squirrel Chaser Hazy Pale Ale.